وما للظالمين من أنصار. إن تبدوا الصدقات فنعما هي، وإن تخفوها وتؤتوها الفقراء وتؤتوها الفقراء فهو خير لكم، ويكفر عنكم من سيئاتكم، والله بما تعملون خبير. ليس عليك هداهم ولكن الله يهدي من يشاء، وما تنفقوا من خير فلأنفسكم، وما تنفقون إلا ابتغاء وجه الله، وما تنفقوا من خير يوفى إليكم وأنتم لا تظلمون. للفقراء الذين أحصروا في سبيل ضربا في الأرض يحسبهم الجاهل أغنياء من التعفف تعرفهم بسيماهم لا يسألون الناس إلحافا وما تنفقوا من خير فإن الله به عليم. الذين ينفقون أموالهم بالليل والنهار الذين ينفقون أموالهم بالليل والنهار سرا وعلانية فلهم أجرهم عند ربهم ولا خوف عليهم ولا هم يحزنون. صدق الله العظيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Sadaqallahul Azim. Respected VIPs, eminent guests, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you all to the Islamic Retail Banking Summit and the Womanize Symposium 2022. Today, I take this opportunity to welcome you all to Jakarta, a city that combines history, culture, and art with a mix of modern and age-old traditions. I hope you had a chance to venture into the heart of the city and enjoy the local cuisine. My name is Tabinda Hussain, and I shall be your host for today. We hope that this summit will assume the immensely important role that is required in today's world and will be a forebearer of strategic policy measures. I would like to invite Dr. Humayun Dar, Chairman, Cambridge IFA, to please come on stage to formally open the summit with his welcome remarks.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidil Anbiya'i wal Mursaleen wa ala alihi wa ahlihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and a very good morning to all of you. Ladies and gentlemen, Islamic retail finance or Islamic retail banking is the face of Islamic banking and finance. We estimated the global size of Islamic finance at the end of last year at 3.178 trillion US dollars, out of which about 3/4 assets are held by Islamic high street banks and the other banks with their Islamic window operations. So out of 3.178 trillion US dollars, about 69.68%, which is about 2.219 trillion US dollars, these are the assets held by Islamic banks. So this shows this immense significance of Islamic retail banking in the global Islamic financial services industry. Acknowledging this significance and importance of retail banking in Islamic banking and finance, we started Islamic Retail Banking Awards in 2016, and this year we decided to expand the award ceremony into an Islamic Retail Banking Summit. So this summit, this is an inaugural summit on Islamic retail banking, and we hope that this would set a trend to discuss and deliberate important issues facing Islamic retail banking worldwide. So looking at Islamic banking and finance, Islamic financial assets globally are concentrated in retail banking. There is a concentration geographically as well. So the 3.178 trillion US dollars, they are principally concentrated in the Middle Eastern region, especially in the GCC countries and of course Iran, followed by this part of the world, Far East Asia, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Brunei Darussalam. Beyond these two regions, we have a bit of concentration of assets in South Asia as well, countries like Pakistan and Bangladesh. Beyond this, we find that Islamic retail banking is at a very initial stage. When we look at Central Asian countries, the likes of Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, Azerbaijan, and so on, their Islamic banking in general and Islamic retail banking in particular is at a very initial stage of development. When we look at Kazakhstan, for example, there are only 2 Islamic banks, and these banks are very small in size. When we go to Africa, the countries like Nigeria, they call it interest-free banking over there. So interest-free banking is a relatively recent phenomenon. Nigeria started with one fully fledged Islamic bank a few years back, followed by another one, Taj Bank, and last year they started, or they allowed another bank called Lotus Bank. So there are 3 fully fledged interest-free banks in Nigeria with small operations, and of course there are some Islamic retail banking operations through Islamic windows as well. The neighboring Niger, for example, where Islamic banking has existed for a very long time, there is only one bank, and it's a very small bank. West Africa, Senegal, Chad, and other countries, there is Islamic banking over there, however, with very marginal kind of presence. So this is a challenge for global Islamic retail banking industry to look into expanding into the regions where Islamic banking and finance is very small and making it big. So geographical challenge is there. Then we come to the technology side. Technology adoption is a big challenge faced by banking and finance in general, and as part of banking and finance industry, Islamic banks, they face a challenge in this respect as well. And again, there is huge variation. When we go to the Middle Eastern countries, technology adoption by Islamic banks is as good as for conventional banks. And this is a trend we find elsewhere as well, i.e. Islamic banks would follow the trend of the general banking and finance industry. For example, when we come to Indonesia, Islamic banks, they are not at a disadvantage when it comes to technology adoption. However, the technology adoption in Indonesia has a very different kind of dimension when we compare it with the GCC. As a frequent traveler myself, I am a technology meter, so I can tell the Islamic banks and the other banks as well where I find most impressive use of technology by banks. Okay. So when I go to the Middle East, I am at ease. I am someone like the younger generation. I don't carry cash. And when I say this thing, I actually don't carry cash. So wherever I go, I just take a flight, and I assume that my mobile phone would be enough for me to make transactions. So any country where my mobile phone is my best companion, I'm happy there. Okay. So when I come to Indonesia, for example, my mobile wallet stops working here. So I checked in at the hotel, and the lady said, I want to show them my physical card. I don't carry my physical cards anymore. These are in my e-wallet. So my life in Indonesia is very difficult. However, the technology in Indonesia has taken a very different route. If you have apps, and if you have your apps in your mobile phone which can capture this QR code, then probably you are not at a disadvantage as someone like me would be facing. The countries where technology previously was not pervasive, their banking and finance and Islamic retail banking as part of it has actually benefited from technology adoption. In a country like Pakistan, the vendors, they don't know that their technology is actually very powerful. So I happened to be in Islamabad. I went to this local bakery, and I wanted to pay them using my Apple Pay. And they said, no, we don't have this facility. And I asked the person, just put the amount in it, and I will try. And when I tapped it, my Apple Pay worked over there. Same was true in Kuala Lumpur as well. So I was staying in one of the leading hotels, and they said, no, we don't have Apple Pay in Malaysia. But I said, if you don't have Apple Pay in Malaysia, I have Apple Pay in Malaysia, and it should work. And that worked over there, right? So the technology adoption, this is a challenge faced by the banks in general in the jurisdictions where Islamic banking and finance is operating with any kind of significance, and this challenge must be taken seriously moving forward. There are other dimensions of technology as well. A lot of people like me, I am a crypto cynic, for example. I don't like cryptocurrencies. However, my son, he actually has got this crypto wallet on his mobile, and he sometimes makes transactions, crypto transactions on a retail level as well. This is something Islamic banks must look into as well. The third thing which I would like to highlight at the start of this summit is the product development and structuring by Islamic retail banks. Islamic retail banking has been very conventional when it comes to product offerings, credit cards, home financing, car financing, and and some others. These are the typical, traditional, conventional products which Islamic banks also offer, and they haven't, in general, gone beyond these products. There is a challenge for Islamic banks to go beyond these traditional products if they want to capture more market share, especially in countries where Islamic banking and finance has attained a share of 20%. After 20%, gaining more ground from conventional side becomes difficult if there is no product innovation. In Indonesia, there are quite a few good examples of innovations. So cash waqf linked sukuk, for example, this is one innovation which Indonesia has come up with, and a lot of Islamic banks are offering products around cash waqf linked sukuk, and this is true in case of Malaysia as well. Waqf related products, they are in use in countries like Bangladesh as well. However, in other parts of the world, this is an area in which Islamic retail banks should look into. Also, home financing, plain vanilla home financing, this is something which Islamic banks are doing, but we believe that they have to go beyond the plain vanilla home financing products, especially in the countries where there is huge deficit of houses or homes. Countries like Pakistan, I think there is a need for coming up with new models of home financing to offer home financing to the families and individuals on an affordable basis. So this is a challenge Islamic banks face in quite a few countries, especially the countries where population is large. Indonesia is one, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Turkey, Egypt, and so on. These are the countries where this challenge is faced by Islamic retail banks. The fourth aspect is exploiting the religious tourism. Okay. Religious tourism is something which is being exploited by the emerging markets for Islamic retail banking. For example, Ethiopia, all the banks, Islamic banks and conventional banks offering Islamic banking or interest-free banking, they call it, they have Hajj-related saving plans. This is true in Indonesia as well. In Africa, any country where Islamic banking is at an initial stage, they would offer a Hajj-related product. Hajj-related product is a welcome thing, but there is a need to expand this into halal tourism, not just religious tourism, which is Hajj and Umrah, but rather extending it to halal tourism in general. And this is something in which Indonesia can play a very important role. Indonesian government is trying to establish Indonesia as a regional hub for halal economy. And halal tourism is one important aspect of this one. So during this summit, which is a few hours, session 1, session 2, and session 3 and 4, we would be looking into different aspects of Islamic retail banking. In the afternoon, we would have a special couple of sessions on the role of women in Islamic banking and finance. Like Islamic retail banking is face of Islamic banking and finance, and women are actually a very beautiful face of Islamic finance in general. And there is a need to highlight success stories of women in this context. We are very happy to observe an increasingly important role of women in the industry. And in the industry, I mean Islamic banking and finance and the related segments like zakat and social finance institutions as well. In the evening, we would have our Islamic Retail Banking Awards and Womanai Awards, where we would be highlighting these important aspects of the participation of women in Islamic banking and finance. In the end, I would like to thank all of you, especially our partners. Our strategic partner for quite a few years has been DDCAP in London, and we are thankful to our local partners like KNEKS and LPPI, and of course Tazkiyah Institute University. Without these institutions, we would not be able to hold this Islamic Retail Banking Summit, and of course the accompanying Islamic Retail Banking Awards and Women Eye Awards as well. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Dr. Dar. We hope that this will inspire our Islamic finance fraternity to come up with more innovative products and services to develop the Islamic retail finance. I would now like to invite Edi Sidiati, Acting President Director of LPPI Indonesia, to please come on stage to give his welcome remarks.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Deputy Prime Minister of Malaysia, Mr. Ashraf Wajdi Dasuki, Honorable Chairman of the Islamic Retail Banking Summit, Professor Dr. Humayun Dar, distinguished speakers, distinguished guests, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Asyhadu an la ilaha illallah, asyhadu anna Muhammadar Rasulullah, Allahumma sholli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad. In the name of Allah, the most beneficent, the most merciful, all the praises and thanks be to Allah. Oh Allah, send your grace, honor, and mercy upon Muhammad and upon the family of Muhammad, and may Allah's peace and blessing be upon him. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my pleasure to welcome you all to the 2022 Islamic Retail Banking Summit, jointly organized by Cambridge IFA, LPPI, and as mentioned by Professor Humayun Dar with KNKS and also with Tazkiyah. I would like to express my sincere appreciation to all of you for generously helping us to participate and will be actively contribute in the seminar, in the summit here. It is grateful to have Mr. Ashraf Wajdi Dasuki here, the Economic Advisor of the Deputy Prime Minister of Malaysia, this morning to open the 2022 Islamic Retail Banking Summit. Thank you, Mr. Ashraf. Being chosen as a local partner for Islamic Retail Banking Summit 2022, we are honored to have this event conducted in Indonesia. As we all know, that Indonesia is a country with the largest Muslim population in the world. Currently, globally in 2024, the global Islamic finance sector is expected to grow by 5%, amounting to around 3.69 trillion US dollar, while halal food is expected to grow by 3.5% or equal to US dollar 1.38 trillion, and Muslim fashion will grow 2.4% or US dollar 311 billions. And throughout 2022, Indonesia recorded as an increase in all key sectors of the halal industry. Indonesia is the top spender in the world's halal industry, with a value of transaction reaching around 184 billion in 2022. Ladies and gentlemen, the Islamic Retail Banking Summit aims to gather regulators, practitioners, experts, and peers of the Islamic retail banking and finance industry from around the world to engage in strategic discussion covering innovative ideas, practical tips, and experiences. The theme of the 2022 summit is Position Your Brand and a Leader in Islamic Banking and Finance. This theme is chosen to respond to the inevitable change where digitalization extensively disrupted the landscape of banking and finance, reshaping payments, lending, and customer engagement. The massive disruption will affect Islamic banking and finance institutions across the globe. Therefore, Islamic banking and finance institutions must turn these challenges into opportunities to position their banks as a leader in the industry. We are grateful that we have eminent speakers today who will share their thought, knowledge, and past experiences with us as a regulator, a practitioner, a scholar, and academician to address the issues from their respective expertise and point of views. Ladies and gentlemen, the agenda, as mentioned by Professor Mandar, of the summit will cover 4 panel discussion. The first panel will be talking about fintech and catalysts for growth of Islamic retail banking, and the second panel will be about the use of technology for enhancing social responsibility in Islamic banking and finance. And the fourth is about women empowerment and inclusion, determination of economic growth, and the last session is about developing top-level women leadership in Islamic banking and finance. I hope our discussion will be productive and fruitful so we can all learn lessons and best practices to bring out new approaches to Islamic banking and finance. We hope also the discussion will broaden your perspectives, which will be helpful for you and your institution. While in Indonesia, please explore our beautiful cities and enjoy the beauty of nature and the hospitality of Indonesian people. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Mr. Sidiati, for your inspirational talk. I would now like to invite Dato Dr. Ashraf Wajdi Dusuki, Economic Advisor to the Deputy Prime Minister of Malaysia, to please come on stage for his keynote speech.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good morning. Dr. Humayundar, distinguished participants for this inaugural Islamic Retail Banking Summit 2022. First of all, it is an honor for me to be here today. I would like to thank Professor Dr. Humayundar for this invitation, and of course to be part of this important event in Jakarta. I choose to speak to this session on the Islamic digital banking, a new paradigm for financial inclusion. As mentioned by our distinguished Professor Dr. Humayundar just now, the emergence of Islamic banking for the past over 50 years, one of the important issues that has been the point of discussion. In fact, I've been talking about this in the last 20 years, is how Islamic banking, in particular Islamic retail banking, can serve the need of the larger community, particularly to address the maqasid al-Sharia, the objective of Sharia. And one of the important issues that need to be addressed is, of course, the financial inclusion. Because inclusion is one of the hottest development topics in 2020. Because being excluded financially or socially perpetuates unemployment, inequality, as well as poverty. With over 2 billion young people in the world, and of course this number most rapidly in a country with the highest rates of exclusion, we can't afford to hesitate in addressing the problem. And one of the important areas that we need to explore is how to integrate Islamic digital banking with the current phenomenon of Islamic finance. And next, let me just highlight to you what is the definition of digital banking. Next. Next, please. Digital banking business means Islamic banking business as defined in Section 2(1) of the Islamic Financial Services Act 2013, Malaysian Act, which is carried on wholly or almost wholly through digital or electronic means. In short, Islamic digital banking would next comprise of online banking as well as mobile banking. I want to skip these slides. Please, next, moving forward. Immediately, next, please. Next. 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 Okay. Why does Islamic digital banking effectively promote financial inclusion? Of course, when you talk about financial exclusion among the people today, they have these common problems of accessing to financial product due to the high transaction cost, accessibility to premises, and so on and so forth. But when you talk about Islamic digital banking, it's easy access, 24/7, 365 days. It's banking on the go, low operating cost, small transaction size, no locality limit, as what Dr. Humayinda mentioned. Anywhere and everywhere you go, you can easily access. As long as you have your mobile in your hand, then you can get access to whatever financial facilities that you want to get access. And more importantly, the use of artificial intelligence, artificial method intelligence and machine learnings, which can facilitate the product innovation in Islamic finance. Especially, you may able to assess and evaluate the pattern on how the people spending, and from there, you can easily come up with a very product that can facilitate then as well as required by the people. And by having this, of course, it covers different segments of societies, especially the young, the millennial generation, who, and at every moment of their life, they have their mobile at their hand, and this can easily get access to this group of people. Next, what are the salient features of digital banking? I group this into 4 categories: talent, technology, business model, and operation. When we talk about talent, it is not just simply you are covering the typical banking, accounting, and financial background, but also you are addressing various groups of people, IT engineers, professional design workforce, as one of the important components. Technology, banking system that easy to configure. You can use the latest and future technology, as I mentioned, using artificial intelligence and machine learning. And you can target different segments of the society, even addressing the micro entrepreneurs' needs, that you can offer product which is easy to understand, cheap and transparent. Because most importantly, when you talk about digital banking, it has to be a simple product, not a sophisticated one. Next, and you look at a range of Islamic banking products, Islamic digital banking products. It can be as common features like CASA, current and saving account, financing products, other services, investments, as well as other financial products. Okay. I would also like to share what are the challenges and opportunities. Next. Among the challenges, especially when it comes to issues pertaining to Sharia. Next. For example, automated contract execution. We cannot just simply rely on the typical product that we have today in a retail banking financial institution, like Tawarruk product, because it is necessary to identify suitable and innovative Sharia contracts without merely depending on Tawarruk or commodity murabaha related product, because the need to sign digital contracts which needs to fulfill the requirements of Sharia. Second important issue is also related to big data and privacy, because there is a need to have a good oversight and effective enforcement to prevent data leakage and misuse, and of course other value-added services to ensure clear and accurate transactions object, ma'qud alayh, and Sharia contracts. What are the Islamic digital banking opportunities? Next. For example, in Sharia contract, it allows customers to be directly involved in these contracts. And it can also enhance and improve the manner how the Sharia contract be executed. And of course, there is a need for more innovative and transparent contracts. Cost control, branchless banking, a cheaper and simpler IT architecture, cession of contract, facilitating akad between the customers and the institutions. Customers have the opportunity to be directly involved and better understand the Sharia process, and of course fees and charges. Other integration of lifestyle and Islamic digital banking. Next, in terms of providing services which is closer to the heart and the practice of the Muslims. For example, zakat, calculator for zakat, goal, saving, business, etc. Infaq reminder via machine learning, spending categories, because as mentioned, by having artificial intelligence in place, you can track, you can evaluate, you can assess the spending patterns of the customers, and of course, you can address their needs respectively. Waqaf, digital wasiyah and faraid, as well as Hajj and Umrah planner. Before I end this session, let me just share with you the current development and current status of Islamic digital banking in Malaysia. Next. Next. Recently, Bank Negara has announced the 5 successful applicants for the digital bank licenses as approved by the Minister of Finance Malaysia, and out of which 3 are the conventional digital banking, whereas 2 are licensed under Islamic digital banking as propagated under Islamic Financial Services Act. Next. It is also governed under a special regulation called Licensing Framework for Digital Banks. And this framework are addressed in 4 different phases. At the moment, next, we are at the foundational phase, where the regulatory framework are a little bit flexible and loose to address the needs of the institutions and the industry to grow. And it is common for Malaysia, whenever there is a new institution or services to be introduced, the Central Bank of Malaysia will give at least 5 years grace period for the institution to grow. And during these 5 years, a lot of leeway is given on the regulatory requirement in terms of governing the digital banking institution, including the capital adequacy requirement, stress testing, and so on, even on the Sharia matters. As what we practice in Malaysia, there is a need to comply with a very strict Sharia regulatory and governance framework. For example, for any normal retail banking institution, there is a need to have at least 5 Sharia advisors, and they have to have certain the divisions in the bank, like Sharia audit, Sharia review, as well as Sharia governance in place. But for digital banking, you're only required to have at least 2 Sharia committee, and at least 2 times a year for the meeting to be held. So there is no strict requirement imposed to these digital banking institutions, because what is the most important, how this industry could play an important role to be in place in the system and addressing the various needs of the society. So with that, I would like to thank again the organizer for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts, and most importantly, the Islamic SI, as mentioned by Dr. Humainda, need to move forward and innovative enough in coming up with a more innovative product which address the needs of various segments in the society, as well as, more importantly, to address the need of the financially excluded society. And I believe Islamic digital banking is one of the way forward for Islamic finance to grow in the current world. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you, Dr. Dasuki. Your talk certainly had some inspirational takeaways. Ladies and gentlemen, we shall now take a short coffee break. Kindly move to the right side of the hall, where we have some refreshments and a chance of networking. We shall convene back in 20 minutes for our first panel discussion. Thank you.